Looks like we are on. How's it going, y'all? There you go. I'm gonna go right into it. I don't want to waste too much time. Today's topic is about young men. All right. So just like I always do, actually, I haven't done this on this page in particular, but I will be reading this article. For those of you who do not know, I like to read. So I will be reading this article and stopping in between, giving my thoughts or whatnot. And then in the comment section, drop your comments, questions. Let me know what you think. If you agree with the article, and see what happens next. All right. So, young men aren't checked out. According to this article, their hopes are being frustrated. Oh, we're going to find out what that means. So, young men are the subject of growing public attention. They are often described as languishing compared to earlier generations of men and young women. And both popular and academic writers have turned a bright light on their struggles. As commonly told, the story is one of crisis, combining negative social and economic data about their situation with disconcerting claims about what is happening among them. All right, so the perception of young men is not a good one in today's society, today's generation. I have been guilty of this. Um, can you join live today? No, unfortunately not. I am on my laptop today, so it is not open to uh to guests, but you can definitely ask questions. Rangitan. Thank you. So, accounts of this crisis emphasize several troubling trends. Fewer young men go to college, for instance, and fewer of them come away with a degree. Just 41% of degrees are now awarded to men. Young men have higher rates of conditions such as ADHD and autism and have more problems with drugs, gambling, pornography, and the law. Many young men today have lower earnings and career prospects compared to earlier cohorts. They have fewer friends, socialize less, and are less civically engaged. Few are making a timely transition to adulthood by meeting such milestones as having full-time job, being financially independent, living away from their parents' homes, and getting married and having children. I have worked with youth for 20 years, right? Just in case you were wondering how old I was, that should give you an idea. And this is something that I have observed myself. I've seen it with my own eyes that young men are are lagging behind for one reason or another. And these stats are not shocking at all. I've seen it with my own eyes. This is why I have made it a personal goal of mine to focus on young men because, from my understanding, from my observations, we are not helping them out on a grander scale. And I understand why, because, the last couple of years, women have been the focus and they have thrived. They've succeeded without question. And I would say they are outperforming men at this point. So, men's roles, their traditions are changing. Therefore, they are falling behind. And these stats do not lie. Okay. These general trends have been well documented in a new IFS survey of young men conducted by YoungGov between April 7th and the 15th, 2025, with a representative sample of 2,000 American men ages 18 to 29. We find them too. But what do these trends mean? That's the crucial question. And to offer an interpretation, we ask both how young men are doing this. How are they doing this this time of their lives and why so many are facing the challenges they do. So the case study is 18 to 29. So if you are a young man and fall under that category, this is about you. We wanted to hear from young men on these matters because their voice is often absent, like I said, from the discussion. What does coming of age mean to them? Or masculinity? Or going to college? What are their goals and hopes? Who are their role models? What kinds of struggles have they faced? What obstacles do they see in their way? And with what attitude do they confront their future? Our findings are detailed in a new report released today on America's Demoralized Man, Part 1, Worthy Aspirations, Trying Circumstances, which is the first in a two-part series. Okay, so these are the findings according to this article. Here are some of the most important things we have learned from our survey of young men. Number one, the defining standards of adulthood have continued to change for young men. Once conventional benchmarks like marriage and parenthood long ago moved to the bottom of the list. But in the last 2 decades, the formerly central piece of completing formal education has slipped as well. Now considered an extremely important by only 31% of young men, far below new standards like being independent, personally 51%, and financially 53%. And although defined in individual terms, the feeling of having reached full adulthood is paradoxically highly correlated with the old benchmarks, being married and a parent, working full time, and completing college or trade school. Hence, even among men ages 24 to 29, less than 41% report definitely feeling like adults. So the benchmarks have changed. Rangatang says males are the new females and vice versa. Yes, the roles have changed. Women are outperforming men in these categories. Not all of them, right? But they are definitely out earning them. They are getting more degrees than them. They are more independent than young men. So we do have a crisis because this is going to affect who young women want to marry. Young women don't want to marry somebody that does not meet their standards, and it's understandable. It's always been that way, right? The exception is that young women today are just doing better for themselves. They're no longer doing the traditional roles that they are used to doing. Okay, let's continue reading. Number two, young men are having a hard time in matters of love. Yes. In fact, 59% were not in a romantic relationship at the time of the survey. That is a big number. However, despite obstacles ranging from job instability to doubts about the availability of suitable partners, most men who are not in a relationship are open to dating. 74%. Most unmarried men desire marriage. 68%, with another 21% unsure. And most childless men would like to be a parent in the future. 62%. I made this claim earlier that young men today are a big part of young men today are incels, meaning they are involuntarily celibate, right? They cannot obtain a partner, a sexual partner for whatever reason. And these are some of the reasons that they listed that probably contribute to that. But 59% of men not being in a relationship is more than half, right? So these trends, these traits, these things that they mention are more than likely contributing to this issue, right? 74%. Insane. All right. Number three, young men view college with a great deal of ambivalence. We'll see why. Young men who have not gone to college or dropped out before graduating are the most skeptical of its value. But even among young men who are attending college or have a degree, half either strongly, 17%, or somewhat, 34%, agree that college is not worth the time or money. And 60% either strongly, 19%, or somewhat, 41%, share the view that they could get a job that interests them without a college degree. So they don't see college as having the same value that it did for men of my generation and previous ones. So that's another reason why they're probably dropping out or just not attending college at all. All right. Let's go back to the comment section. Same thing. All right. Number 4, trade school apprenticeships. Apprenticeship is a valuable path to adulthood. With these skilled men are often overlooked entirely. We find that these without a bachelor's degree who have completed such programs are employed or self employed at rates of 77%, very similar to those of college grads, 80%. We also find that compared to men without a bachelor's degree who did not enroll in or finish trade school, young men who did are much more likely to be married. Moreover, these programs may be more accessible or appealing to young men with certain learning related conditions. Those who have experienced autism, ADHD, or learning disabilities like dyslexia are about as likely to have graduated from a trade school or an apprenticeship program as those with a history of these disorders. Meanwhile, 4-year college graduation rates are much lower for men with learning related conditions. That is very interesting. And makes a lot of sense because most of my experience with youth has been in school settings or after school settings. And most young men do not like to be in a classroom setting. They do not like that experience. They want to use their bodies to move around, right? So the way school is set up today, from what I observed and what I've seen in all the years that I've worked at schools, is that it is geared towards girls, towards women. So men are slowly falling behind because the way it's created, it does not benefit young men unless they adapt to those systems and are able to implement them, right? So this does not shock me at all that people who have a disability are more than likely not going to pursue a college degree, right? Again, that doesn't mean that if you don't have a degree, you're not going to be successful, but a degree to me is like a plan, right? And a lot of these boys don't have plans. Unfortunately, they do not. Number 5, young men are not enthralled by online influencers as role models. When we asked who do they look who do they look most sorry. When we asked who they most looked up to as role models, mothers 79% and fathers 69% topped the list, followed by coaches and teachers 57%. Among prominent figures from the worlds of tech, politics, entertainment, and religion, the most admired role model was former President Barack Obama, whereas the least was online influencer Andrew Tate. Okay, so as you can see, right, it's interesting to see that mothers are seen as a better role model than fathers. That is crucial. That is huge, right? If a young man does not have a male role model in their lives to provide direction, that is going to cause young men to fail, right? So this right here is a clear indicator as to why young men are not doing well. Not to say that young women or women in general cannot lead men, but you need a strong man in your life to be able to succeed. And if you don't have one, more than likely you're not going to. That's just the stats back that up, right? Um, so that's very interesting to see that. Six, their understanding of masculinity is not the toxic masculinity of the manosphere. When asked if being a man requires a willingness to sacrifice for others and whether manhood involves strength, responsibility, and leadership, excuse me, 89% of young men endorse the first statement, 85% of those endorse the second statement. So that's still pretty clear. It's still pretty much the same thing, and that hasn't changed. All right. Finally, young men are not apathetic. Rather than easy accommodation to their circumstances, our findings suggest that young men's hopes are being frustrated. For instance, they want a job that provides them with an adequate standard of living. When asked about their most significant challenge in life so far, many young men's answers concern money and finding a job. Yes, these same concerns play a role in some men's hesitancy toward pursuing marriage. We find young men care about their status, want to contribute, and are distressed by the gap between their current circumstances and their what they really desire for their life. So, this is an obvious one. If you are not making enough money, if you don't have a job that pays you enough in today's society as a young man, you're going to feel like you're not good enough. So, you combine that with not having a strong father figure in your life who can guide you, give you confidence. It doesn't help. So, it's not that they don't care, it's that they are lost. They don't know what to do. So, they want to be married, they want to be fathers, they want to have children, but who is teaching these young men to do this? Right? There's a gap. And those who are turning to the manosphere and the red pill, right? They are using that anger to justify their feelings. And I've been saying this for a long time. Young men need male mentors. Again, I'm not saying that women cannot help because they can. But if you are a man today and you are a successful man today, what are you doing to help out young men? If you see these men struggling, right, consuming these negative things online, what role are you playing to stop this? Maybe you don't care. Maybe this is not for you. But if you care about society and especially if you have girls in your life, you should care. Because if these girls are going to meet men who are not capable of being able to provide in the ways that men have traditionally been able to do so. Now, I understand that women are no longer needing men in the ways they used to, but they still want men to lead in the core. And why do I say this? If a woman is in her masculine energy, most of the time, it is because she did not have a positive male role model. So they have become accustomed to do this and they become very good at it. Right? They have, like somebody said here, they have become the new men. and men have become the new women. The roles have changed as far as like roles, right? So they've adapted because all the support has been towards women since the 70s, right? Women empowerment, feminism, right? Me Too, all these things. Again, I'm not against that at all. But because we have been so focused on women and girls this whole time, and because society is changing, we are no longer focusing on young men. So, how do we, what role do we play as men? Again, especially if you are a successful man, to contribute or to solve this problem that we have today. Why should you care, right? You're listening to this thing for the first time and don't know what I'm about. You're thinking, why do we even care about these guys? I don't know them. If it's not my family, why should I care? Historically, right? Men who fought wars, who committed some of the most horrible crimes in history, right, are single, lonely, angry men who have nothing to lose. A young man who is single, who is lonely, who is upset at the world, is a dangerous man for society. This is not good for society. With the way things are going today, it is not good. If you have women in your life, if you have girls in your life, that's a problem because they are going to be affected by that. So we need to help our young men. We have to invest in them, right? Not by destroying women or by uh, seeing that they're the problem. Now, that doesn't mean we don't hold them accountable because we do, right? I don't subscribe to feminism. I don't subscribe to, you know, a lot of these anti-man rhetoric either because it's not helping the situation. I believe we should also hold them accountable. But before we do any of that, we have to focus on our men so they can get better, so they can improve, so they can be better for our women. Otherwise, these guys are just going to be lost and it's not going to be good for society as a whole. If women today think that this is bad, this is going to get worse, right? So, very interesting article. And I'm always thinking about how to help out the young men because I see it. I see it all the time. You can call it you can call it feeling sorry for them. You can call it baby. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. They need help. And I don't see too many channels that are doing this. If they are supposedly helping them out, it's more of taking advantage of the feelings that they have, the resentment, the anger they have towards women. They're not directing this anger at the problem. They are directing it at the women who are succeeding, and that's not good. You know, it's not good at all. So, by helping out young men and by holding women accountable who are destroying young men, right? There you go. Right? There you go. We need to be able to do this. Otherwise, we are not going to be good as a society. We just are not. So again, I ask you, if you are a man in today's world, what are you doing to mentor a young man? Right? Even if you are not successful, I began mentoring kids. I was still a kid. I was 19. Right? So I was mentoring middle school kids when I started, and I've been doing it my whole life. And those people that I've been able to help out, I don't have to speak for them. They'll let you know what I've done. I'm not gonna sit here and flex all of my accomplishments on what I've done with young men, but they can let you know, right? And that's the beautiful thing that you impact so many people, and then they do the same thing to other people, right? I've said this before, flex. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I've said this before, right? That once again we have to focus on our men, because if we don't, then our society will just continue to crumble. And my goal in life, with my imperfections, right? Because I have a lot of them, definitely can say that. But even with that, my goal as I navigate life, as I reflect on the things I got to get better at, is to be a servant of God. Simple as that, right? I don't care how people feel about that. I don't care if it comes across as too religious or too spiritual or whatever. I don't care. That is the path that I want to take, and I believe that it is a purpose for me. And yeah, so thank you for those who tuned in, and for those of you who are going to listen to this later on. And if this resonates, please share it with a young man, or if you are a person, if you are a man who can be of service to another young man. Look, all they need is for somebody to give them hope, to give them confidence, to believe in them, whether it's through words, giving them your time, whatever that looks like, right? Whatever your skill set is, use that and help somebody out. All right, y'all. To the next one, y'all. I'm gonna end this live, and yeah, that's it. Peace.